Start off, I'd like to acknowledge our traditional custodians of the land in which we are gathered and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. And the Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people, please also be advised that this meeting will be mentioned the name of a person who has passed away. I just want to acknowledge that. I'd like to now welcome everyone to the 787th Ordinary Council meeting of the 23rd of June 2021. I declare this meeting open at 10 a.m. and I'd like to advise meeting attendees that this meeting is being webcast and audio recorded. And can I ask you all to be upstanding as I do a moment of contemplation. This week, I had the honour, along with Governance Chair, Councillor Natalie Wilcox, of delivering our first ever billion-dollar budget. There is a lot to celebrate in this budget, with investment in community infrastructure, roads, business support, parks, the environment and youth. I'm particularly proud of Council's forward thinking in creating a 15-year community infrastructure program. This will ensure the City of Logan stays on track and is to be one of the most livable cities in southeast Queensland. I came across this quote during our budget deliberations and I thought it described well the mindset of councillors when we deliberate over this budget. The day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. It takes courage to make decisions now that we won't see the full benefits of for many years to come. I want to thank everyone involved, from the finance officers to the media team, ELT and my councillor colleagues. Thank you for keeping your eye on the big picture. You have been persistent and you have been dedicated, been patient, stayed the course, and the hard work will pay off. Thank you, councillors. Okay, leave of absence. I note that we've received a leave of absence request from Councillor Russell due to medical leave. Are there any further leave of absences to consider? No, there's not. I note that the motion to grant Councillor Russell a leave of absence is now showing on the screen. Is there a mover for the motion? Councillor Hall has moved the motion and seconded to the motion. Councillor Karansky has seconded the motion. I now open the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried unanimously, therefore the motion has been carried. Councillors, I now refer to condolences. Do any councillors have any condolences to raise? I'll start at Division 1. No? No? Councillor Hiramow.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise today to pass on our city's condolences to the family and friends of Lawrence Earl Brown. Known as Laurie, he was an anchor of the Parkridge community. He moved to Parkridge when he was 13 months old in 1930 and saw big change. He was a part of that change and he was a driver of that change. After a powerful experience at the Billy Graham Crusade in 1959, Laurie donated his own land and built the oldest remaining church in Parkridge. He was involved in the building of Hubner Park and active in chaplaincy. Laurie played a significant part in the history of Parkridge and in the history of our city. I'd like to thank Laurie's wife of 70 years, Beryl, and their 4 children, Colin, Diane, Alan and Andrea, for their families' great contribution. Many who met him said he was the happiest person they knew. He was kind, he was generous, and he will be missed. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I yield my time.
Thank you, Councillor Hiramow. Councillor Bannon? Councillor Stamp? Councillor Wilcox? Councillor Murphy? No? Okay, councillors, please stand if you're able to join me in a moment of reflection in honour of those who have gone before us and in support of those who have been left behind. Thank you, councillors. Okay, congratulations. I now open the floor for congratulation requests. Do any councillors have a congratulation request to raise? Councillor Bradley?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can congratulations please be sent to the Logan City BMX Academy for their very successful hosting of the 2021 Oz Cycling BMX Queensland Series Round 3 at Underwood Park. With the recent facility upgrades at Underwood Park, it's made this event quite viable option for the Academy to host this event of such magnitude. The Oz Cycling represents over 52,000 members from across BMX, BMX freestyle, cyclocross, e-sport, mountain bike, paracycling, road, track and lifestyle riders throughout Australia. I would like congratulations be sent to the Logan City BMX Academy for organisation of this event and acknowledge the huge amount of time, effort put in by the club went into delivering such an event of this magnitude. Over 400 riders from across Queensland attended the event, together with support staff and families, with other regular community and sporting events running concurrently on the day. The club did a wonderful job with alleviating traffic congestion and easing parking issues. Events like this give enormous exposure of our city, with the recent facility upgrades makes Underwood Park an attractive venue for other events of this size. I'd like to pass on my congratulations and thanks to the club and its volunteers for making this a very successful event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bradley. Councillor Hall.
Councillor Hall. I'm prettier.
Councillor Lane, sorry.
Much, much prettier, Mr Mayor. Amahoro means peace, and you need peace right now, Mr Mayor. And Turashaboye means we can do it. And yes, I can. The Burundian community on Saturday held a women's festival, and it was an amazing example of what our multicultural communities are doing to actually engage in Logan City as a general whole. It was thanks to the community events grants. There was a grant of $2,000 given to the group, and they greatly appreciated the opportunity to put on display their dancers, their women leaders, their pastors, and they came together in such a united and beautiful way, and I was most impressed with it. I would ask that you send a letter, Mr Mayor, to the President, Desire, and to the ladies of the Burundian community expressing our gratitude and thanks that they're part of our community.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. We'll do that. Councillor Kerensky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I would like to request that congratulations be forwarded to Peter Edwards, who's the principal of San Damiano College in Yarrabilba. I had the great pleasure of attending the official college opening and blessing of the school on the 4th of June this year. And the school unofficially opened earlier this year with a cohort of 77 Year 7 students spread across 3 classes. The school is the newest Brisbane Catholic education facility and forms the next step in the educational journey for those students who are attending St Clair's Primary School, which opened in 2017. Designed in keeping with the Franciscan tradition, the layout of the college and buildings and the grounds reflect the distinctive Italian village of Assisi. And just as a by the way, I found this quite hilarious on the day. In keeping with the tradition, the creative Year 7 students have even named their resident fish, who resides in the reception desk, St Francis of Assisi. On the day, Year 7 students provided individual tours of the school and greeted guests, and I'd like to just say that they are an amazing school with a great future ahead of them, and I was really proud to be part of this momentous event.
Thank you, Councillor Kerensky. Councillor Raven.
Yes, please, Mr Mayor. Although my congratulations for some of the fantastic work that our staff have been doing this last month. The Logan Office of Economic, I'll try that again, hey? The Logan Office of Economic Development, there we go, have had small business month events running all of this last month, and they ran 8 events. So that's 2 events a week for those of you playing at home who like to do the maths. Signature events to assist businesses supply to council, and now our supplying to council event was oversubscribed within hours, and now that's going to be, and with a wait list of over 100, and especially as we're moving into the new procurement model that's just recently been endorsed through the budget, we'll be moving into to hosting those as regular events so that business can connect directly to council, and that $500 million that we spend every year can be spent with our local businesses. This is really important work, and the Logan Office of Economic Development does it day in, day out, but particularly in the last month they've been flat strapped. They're even investigating the option of becoming a small business friendly council, which I know you're excited about, Mr Mayor, because you know as well as I do that small businesses are the engine room of our economy, and we want to do everything we can to get out of their way and let them make money and create wealth in our city.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Tomorrow on the 24th of June, Mr Malcolm and Mrs Pauline Gross of Bethania will be celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary. That's almost the amount of time as you've been working for council. I joke there. And beats my own personal record by about 60 years. I'd like to ask that congratulations be sent to Mr and Mrs Gross. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. That'll be done. Councillor Fraser. Councillor Hieronymi. Councillor Bannon. Councillor Stemp. Councillor Wilcox, I know you've got some.
I do. I have a couple today, so please bear with me. Normally when you think about Division 11, you think about the wide open spaces, you think about the acreage land that most of us probably live on, and you think of the terrible road network that most of us live and drive on every day. But today, I wanted to celebrate sport and the sporting achievements of so many Division 11 residents that is coming up this July. Next month, I have 2 boys, Sage and Jaden, who attend Greenbank State School and play for the Greenbank Raiders, who have been selected in the Met West side for rugby league, and they will travel to Townsville in July to play at the Queensland State School Championships. So best of luck for those 2 boys. Chloe is a resident of Flagstone and attends St Peter's at Springfield. She's also Kylie's daughter. So for those of you watching at home, Kylie is my doppelganger in Flagstone. She always gets mistaken for me when she goes out, which is very strange, but anyway. And Chloe has made the under-17 Queensland netball side and is heading to Tasmania in July. So best of luck to Chloe. The biggest thing that's happening next month, though, is that on the 21st of July, the Tokyo Olympics will begin. Cross fingers, cross toes, cross everything. We have a former Division 11 resident, Molly O'Callaghan, who will no doubt make us all very proud and has made the Tokyo Olympic swimming team for Australia. Molly also attends St Peter's at Springfield, and at just 17 is the baby of the Olympic swimming team. She began her swimming journey at Greenbank State School Pool, where she attended primary school as a very reluctant swimmer, but she took to it like a fish to water. And I'm proud to say that I have a photo of Molly up on my wall in my office that was taken around 2 years ago at the Greenbank State School Pool with some of the great Greenbank Gators swimmers, because we could all see that there was something very special in Molly all those years ago, and we knew that she'd eventually make the Olympics. So it's so great to have her at 17 make the team. So good luck at your first Olympics, and make sure that you're watching. She's made the 100 and 200 relay team for Molly, so Logan can't wait to cheer you on the world stage. So best of luck.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. Councillor Murphy in that beautiful white jacket.
Oh, thank you,
You may
Mr
proceed.
Mayor. Mr Mayor, I have 3 today. Mr Mayor, I would like to pass my congratulations on to the Beanley Garden Club. Yesterday, they had a tremendous day on their annual Friendships Day, but it was a day of a special occasion. It was their 50th birthday and 50 years of service in the Beanley community. Importantly, it marks 50 years of fun and friendship being expressed through the fellowship of gardening. Mr Mayor, I'd like you to pass on your congratulations to the President Linda Gillum and the Secretary Jocelyn Watts for their hospitality yesterday and their 50th year. Volunteers are the heart and soul of our communities, and I'm glad that we have the Beanley Garden Club in our community to give back to others through the joy of gardening. Secondly, I'd like to pass on my congratulations and acknowledgement to Mrs Annette Munt, OAM, who was recognised in the Queen's Birthdays Honours List this year for her service to the community of Beanley. Annette is a stalwart of the Beenleigh community and has served as the Chief Executive Officer and Secretary of the Beenleigh Show Society since 1971. She has dedicated her life to continue the legacy of the Beenleigh District agricultural history. Mr. Mayor, Annette is a driving force behind the Beenleigh Show, and I thank her for her contribution to our community and congratulate her on her OAM. Lastly, another OAM that was given to a Beenleigh resident, and that goes to Miss Heather Christensen on her receipt of the Medal of Order of Australia, for being recognised for her service for Beenleigh as well. Her list of achievements include member of Quota Beenleigh since 1992, serving as the president for 6 years and coordinating the City of Logan Quota Beenleigh Eisteddfod since 2008. She has also been a board member of the Beenleigh Yatala Chamber of Commerce and is the facilitator of the Junior Chamber of Commerce since 2009. Most recently, she was recognised as Citizen of the Year, and she was also awarded the Logan City Council Australia Day Award 2016. There is no doubt in my mind that Heather is the most deserving person I know to receive an ONM, and always willing to help and serve others in our community. She is a shining light for those in need. Heather is an all-round legend, inspiration to others, and a driving force for positivity and change in our community, and I congratulate her on her OAM. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Murphy. Okay, councillors, I now refer to the minutes of the previous ordinary council meeting. I move that the minutes of the 786th ordinary council meeting held on the 26th of June 2021 be confirmed. Is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor Lane has seconded the motion. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? No one wishes to speak to the motion. I now put the matter to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has not been carried unanimously. Councillor Bradley?
I was involved on that day, so I can't confirm the minutes.
Okay, that's been noted.
Was that abstention or against?
It was you abstained, didn't you, Councillor Bradley? Okay, that motion has been carried. Now, business arising from the minutes. We have no business arising from the minutes, so we'll go straight into committee recommendations. I now refer to the City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee meeting held on the 15th of June 2021. Councillor Raven, Chairperson of the City Planning, Development and Environment Committee, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, I'm flashing. You've still got a microphone. Thank you very much, Councillor Murphy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we move into any discussion, do any councillors have any new conflicts of interest that they would like to declare at this stage? There being none, I will now speak to the recommendations. Mr. Mayor, it was a big week in the Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee this week, and the biggest of all, of course, was item 6.1, which was the Logan Central Civic and Community Precinct Plan. This is in Division 2, and I know that Councillor Lane has been doing a fantastic job re-engaging her community to have really in-depth discussions and provide meaningful and valuable feedback about what we're going to do with this important part of our city, which is one of our key activity centres. The plan includes better parking, better vehicle access and connectivity for cyclists and pedestrians, and it outlines a long-term integrated vision for this hidden gem to become a shining jewel in the crown of Logan's public spaces. And as we plan for units to overlook the park and shops and entertainment to wrap around the facility, it really will become the central park of Logan Central, and I can't wait to see what we're able to deliver in this space in the decades to come. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have to speak to at this time. I'm happy to hear from my colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. Do any other councillors wish to speak on any of the other items? No? Oh, Councillor Bradley.
Have it noted, Mr. Mayor, that I want 4.1, my name against, please.
Sorry, Councillor Bradley, are you speaking or are you just making a comment?
I just want to foreshadow, I want 4.1, my name against, please.
Fine. I'll hand it back to you, Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I now move that the recommendations of the City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee meeting held on the 15th of June 2021 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. Do I have a second of the motion? Councillor Hall, second of the motion. I now put the matter to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you, councillors. That has been carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Could I also have my name recorded against 4.1, please?
Yep, hang on. Yep, I know. Now what we're going to do, we've got a new preamble now. So what we're going to do is once we've carried that vote, I will then say the motion, would any councillors like to record their names as against or abstain to any of the particular items within the committee recommendations? So we don't need to forewarn the Mayor now. We'll wait for that to come up and then you will be able to state which one you will vote against or abstain against. So Councillor Bradley?
That's very pleasing to hear. Against 4.1, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Karansky?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Against 4.1.
Thank you. Any other councillors? No? Now go to the City Infrastructure Committee and now refer to the City Infrastructure Committee held on the 15th of June 2021. Councillor Lane, Chairperson of City Infrastructure Committee, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Before we move into discussion, do any councillors have any new conflicts of interest to declare on any items? There being none, I'll now speak to the recommendations. Mr Mayor, City Infrastructure was a busy one again with Inland Rail, again raising its head. Councillor Wilcox, Councillor Bannon and Councillor Fraser are great advocates for their community when it comes to Inland Rail. They're actually talking about bridge crossings. They're talking about opportunities to actually get the feds to stump some money up for some noise barriers and other mitigation processes. And it was really pleasing to have a very frank discussion around this subject. I know that we go over it time and time again, but the reality is residents are going to be impacted now and into the future. So that's all I have for the recommendations, and I'm happy to open it up to other.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Do any other councillors wish to discuss any other? Councillor Karansky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to thank council officers for presenting an update on the feasibility study of the recreational trail from Bethania to Logan Village along the disused rail corridor. We spent quite a bit of time in committee last week talking about the virtues of this project and also foreshadowing some of the concerns that residents have with regard to the rail trail. But all that being said, as councillors would be aware, I've long been an advocate for this project and I'm really excited to progressing this project to detailed design and council formally undertaking public consultation on this project moving forward. It's an exciting legacy project for the city. I look forward to finding out more.
Thank you, Councillor Karansky. Any other councillors? No? I'll hand it back to you, Councillor Lane.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I now move that the recommendations of the City Infrastructure Committee meeting held on 15 June 2021 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Councillor Lane has moved the motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Karansky has seconded the motion. I now put the matter to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, that motion has been carried unanimously. Therefore, the motion has been carried. Now, I do ask the councillors if there's any councillors wish to put any matters they wish to abstain or vote against. Please raise your hand. Councillor Hirameyer.
Mr Mayor, I would like to vote against item 4.3.
Thank you, Councillor Hirameyer. Any others? No. Okay, thank you. We'll now go to the City Lifestyle Committee, held on the 16th of June 2021. Councillor Karansky, Chairperson of the City Lifestyle Committee, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I note that a declarable conflict of interest was made by Councillor Wilcox on item 4.1 in the committee meeting. Eligible councillors voted in favour of Councillor Wilcox participating in the meeting, including by voting on the matter. This decision will apply to all subsequent decisions in respect of this matter. Therefore, Councillor Wilcox does not need to redeclare today unless there is a change to the councillor's personal interests and or the nature of the matter being discussed. Councillor Wilcox, are there any changes to your declaration? Before we move into discussion, do any councillors believe there's been a change to your personal interests or wish to redeclare any conflicts of interest? There being none, I'll now speak to the recommendations. At the City Lifestyle Committee last week, councillors were presented with a request to renew Logan Basketball's lease of the Cornubia Sports Complex. The centre's performance has been positively recognised over the past 5 years and is identified as a much-loved community asset. Councillors expressed their support for the lease renewal. Councillors discussed a proposal to rename the Berrinba Wetlands Interpretive Centre in honour of Aboriginal elder and renowned artist Reginald Roy Knox, known fondly as Uncle Reg. During discussions, Councillor Lane reinforced Uncle Reg's legacy and contribution to the Logan community, and I'd like to commend the area councillor John Raven for his work with Uncle Reg's daughter Missy in bringing about this project. Next steps are for us to undertake community consultation regarding the proposal. And finally, the City of Logan's Safe City Strategy and Action Plan was presented to councillors who were provided with an update on outcomes and activities that have commenced since it was adopted late last year. I'd like to thank all the councillors for providing feedback and acknowledging the positive impacts the program has had upon the Logan community to date. We look forward to hearing how this initiative will continue to evolve in future. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kransky. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I want to also speak on item 5.1 being the Safe Night project, which was held at Springwood Lions, and I noticed that there are some police officers in the room here today, and I suspect that they were part of that. So I want to thank them sincerely, if they were, for their involvement, and it's an event that is certainly well received when and I know our local police in Springwood Police Beat and the Rochester South Police Beat were very much looking forward to this event. Also, on the 25th of May, there was a senior safety crime time trivia event held at Elements Retirement Living in Springwood, and the attendees absolutely loved this event. I would strongly encourage councillors to get involved when it comes to your turn to have such events in your division, because the community feel very engaged when you can share your own personal experiences of safety issues. And I certainly shared mine of being my Facebook being hacked twice, and my councillor website going somewhere in Russia. So I think the community really identify with certain safety issues when you can actually personalise it yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bradley. Any other councillors wish to discuss anything? No? I'll hand it back to you, Councillor Kransky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I now move that the recommendations of the City Lifestyle Committee held on the 16th of June 2021 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Kransky. Councillor Kransky has moved the motion. Do we have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Hall to second the motion. I now put the matter to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried unanimously. Now I'll ask councillors, does any councillors wish to record, abstain or vote against any of the other agenda items individually? No. Thank you, councillors. I now refer to the City Governance Committee meeting held on the 16th of June 2021. Councillor Wilcox, Chairperson of the City Governance Committee, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And before we move into discussion, do any other councillors have any new conflicts of interest to declare on any new items at this stage, or any of the items? No? There being none, I have nothing actually to talk about with this week's or last week's committee, because I do have a GB item to talk about the budget, so I will hand it back to the Mayor to open discussions.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. Should be budgeted out, I think. Any other councillors wish to discuss any matter within the agenda? No? Councillor Wilcox, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I now move that the recommendations of the City Governance Committee held on the 16th of June 2021 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. Councillor Wilcox has moved the motion. I have a seconder. Councillor Murphy has seconded the motion. I now put the matter to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously. I now ask councillors if they'd like to record their name against or abstain against any of the agenda items in that committee. There not being none, thank you. Councillors, we have council reports, determination of community benefit fund requests that may have declared conflict of interest for 2020-2021. We have 2 council reports to consider. I now refer to item 10.1 and invite Mr Robert Strachan, the Director of Organisational Services, to join the discussion. Before we open discussion on this item, I note that Councillors Hieremeyer, Wilcox and Murphy have conflicts of interest to declare in relation to the respective community benefit fund requests detailed in the report. To facilitate this, I will be considering each of the 3 community benefit fund requests within this report separately. This means that the report recommendations will be split into 3 individual motions. Before we continue, do any other councillors have a conflict of interest? Okay, none being so, I now commence consideration of the 3 individual requests. Firstly, I'll refer to the Division 12 request for quota Ben Lee. I now invite Councillor Murphy to declare her conflict on this request.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I, Councillor Karen Murphy, have a declarable conflict of interest in item 10.1 in ordinary council meeting on the 23rd of the 6th, 2021. The particulars of that declaration are as follows. The nature of my declarable conflict of interest is that it is a support application for CBF funding for quota Ben Lee. The declarable conflict of interest arises between my relationship with related parties. The name of the related parties are Quota Ben Lee and Heather Christensen. The nature of the relationship are related to the parties of the councillor. I am a member of the Quota Ben Lee and a close friend with Heather Christensen, who is a board member of the organisation. The nature of my relationship with the interest is that Quota Ben Lee received CBF funding and Heather Christensen did the application. So I will be removing myself from this today.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. We'll wait for Councillor Murphy to leave.
Point of order, Mr Mayor, just before Councillor Murphy finalises that declaration, I know that it's simpler if she declares and leaves, but as we've seen with this legislation, once you've declared once, you can never speak to us again about Heather Christensen or about Quota Ben Lee. And I don't think that's a great outcome, because the 2 things that you've listed there aren't necessarily a conflict of interest, in my opinion. I haven't discussed it with my colleagues. But once you declare and you leave, you can never speak to us about either of those people again, because you may be influencing us. And I think that would be a detriment to your role as a councillor and not in the public interest.
Okay, so Councillor Raven is asking for clarification whether or not you're happy with that.
I believe I do have a declarable conflict of interest. I don't believe that the public would see me as not having a conflict of interest with Quota or Heather Christensen. I've been a part of Quota for some time. I've been Volunteer of the Year for Quota. I just think that my relationship with that particular organisation is way too close, and I don't think that the general public would see that I wouldn't have one. So I will be removing myself from the meeting.
That's fair. I just wanted you to fully understand.
No
the
one else can
consequences.
question that. If
Yep.
Councillor Murphy
No, that's
makes
fair.
that decision, she will proceed to remove herself. Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Thank you, councillors. So we should have the proposed amendment on the board. Yes, we do. I'll read it. That funding for Quota Ben Lee Incorporated, as detailed in the report of the Director of Organisational Services dated the 23rd of June 2021 in the amount of $450 from Councillor Murphy's Community Benefit Fund be approved. So Mr Strachan, you're here to make comment on this, if you'd like to make comment.
I'm happy to take the report as read and answer the question.
Okay. Councillor Bradley.
Just as a procedural, should it not be Division 12's Community Benefit Fund? Because it's not actually Councillor Murphy's.
Or the officer?
The acting CEO.
Okay, Mr CEO, the question has been raised to you if you'd like to answer.
Well, I think for clarity, I would just put the Division 12 Community Benefit Fund.
Yeah, because it's not hers personally.
Okay, so we're looking at wording change? Yep. Okay. All right, so the wording change is appropriate now. Any other councillors wish to make any comment or raise any questions to the officer? Councillor Karansky.
Mine's a question. Robert, I understand that Quota Bingley is receiving funding for the upcoming Stedford in terms of a sponsorship and so on, and independently has approached the Divisional Councillor for funding to host an event that's directly associated with the Quota Bingley Stedford, at $450 toward catering. I assume this has gone through all council's channels, but my understanding was that council was looking to ensure that we weren't duplicating funding for any events. I wonder if you might comment on that, please.
Ideally, we don't duplicate funding on events. However, this has gone through the process in relation to the CBF policy and procedure, and it is an eligible use of the CBF funding. So therefore, it's here for council's determination today.
I'm supportive of this, providing that it has met all the funding criteria.
Any other councillors? Councillor Raven, you.
Oh, sorry.
No other questions? Okay, so is there a mover for the amended motion that's now on the screen? Councillor Bradley has moved the motion. Do we have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Bannon has seconded the motion. I now put the matter to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has not been carried unanimously. It has been carried though, therefore the motion has been carried. Councillor Lane, are you voting against or abstaining?
Against, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. That will be recorded. Okay, someone asked Councillor Murphy to come back into the room. Okay, councillors. Secondly, I'd like to now refer to Division 11 request for the Flagstone State Community College. I now invite Councillor Wilcox to declare her conflict of interest on this request.
Thank you. I, Natalie Wilcox, declare a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item 10.1 of the Ordinary Council meeting on the 23rd of June 2026. The nature of the declarable conflict of interest are as follows. I have close friends who are still on staff at Flagstone State Community College, and this could be seen as a conflict of interest. Because I still have so many close friends on staff within the school that I also taught at for nearly 5 years, I still talk to these friends who are staff on a regular basis outside of school, and I socialise with them on a regular basis, and community members could see it as a conflict of interest. Therefore, I will voluntarily remove myself from the decision and voting process.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. You're leaving the room?
There is a question.
Oh, Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Same question. Once you remove yourself voluntarily, you can't change that position ever again until maybe these friends aren't working there anymore. So that could be a decade or more. So any decision that impacts the students at that school, programs run at that school, you won't be able to raise that with us because that would be seen as influence, which is an offence. So again, just want you to be mindful of the consequences of making a permanent decision that you will not talk to us about this, like this school ever again, or the programs associated with it, on the back of friends who won't receive a personal benefit from what you're doing here, and so may not meet the threshold of what the legislation says is a conflict of interest. But if you're comfortable with doing that, that's fine. I just want you to be aware of the consequences of that.
I am. I'm always seen in public with friends from the school. They attend many same community things as me, so I'm quite comfortable doing this. I have told school that I will declare and stuff like this, and that anything that comes up needs to come through Ordinary Council and committees, and I will remove myself. So they're very aware of the process that I've said, because I think public will see it as a conflict of interest.
Councillor Hall.
Wouldn't you feel more comfortable putting it to a vote from the other councillors to decide upon whether they perceive this to be a conflict? Because they generally share the perception of what the community would have and would be, a good way to test whether or not it is perceived that you actually do have a conflict of interest.
Councillor Wilcox?
Councillor, it's completely up to you. I just want you to be aware. If you're comfortable with leaving, you can leave. If we vote, we can change our position again later if the circumstances change. But if you leave, you have to stay gone until you get an opportunity.
Councillors
to
can
change
raise
things.
concerns, but they can't instruct you what to do.
Yeah, we can't
It's
tell
your
you what to do.
decision.
It's your decision completely. Yeah.
I'm happy to put it to the vote, and then at least I've been very transparent in the public, and I've put it out there for the vote, so I'm fine with that.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox.
I'm very happy
Yep.
to just, if with the latitude of, speaking to
Okay,
this a little
so-
bit more, but don't we have a
So,
declaration
before we
before us at the
proceed,
moment that we
Councillor
need to make a
Wilcox,
decision
are
on?
you happy to now make a decision on your conflict or not? Because I don't want you to be verbaled here. I want you to tell me whether or not you want the councillors to decide whether or not you've got a conflict in that you can remain in the room or not. You have to be comfortable with that decision. You need to make that decision. I need to be clear on what you want.
I know that I've done a declaration, a declarable declaration, but if councillors would like to vote on it and then it's in the public, I'm not sure if.
Not whether they
Oh,
want to
okay, so
vote.
for you?
It's not, no,
Okay.
I want to clarify this as a chair.
Okay.
It's not what the councillors want, it's what you want, okay? Now, do you want to readjust your decision here and ask the councillors whether or not they want to adjudicate whether you can stay in the room or not? Now, it's up to you. It's not up to them. It's only up to you.
Yes, I am happy for them to adjudicate.
So you're happy to?
Yes, adjudicate, like, to see if it's a perceived conflict of interest. I don't know. Can I withdraw it and,
I think the problem is you've declared.
Yeah.
Well, you can, sorry.
I think here we've got a situation where the councillors declared a conflict of interest. So there's a declared conflict, all right? And reasons have been given. So now if the councillor, so the second part of the process in relation to a declared conflict, if the councillor chooses to stay in the room and participate in discussion and the vote, is a council make that decision through a vote. So I think that still is an avenue, but that really is something that the councillor needs to decide on and be sure of, that you're basically changing your declaration from voluntarily leaving the room to basically staying and asking the councillors to adjudicate on your declared conflict.
So what you're saying, Robert, is that Councillor Wilcox will have to withdraw her original decision
No, she just have to
and,
request, she just have to
yep, she's going to have to...
withdraw her position that she will voluntarily remove herself from the vote and request that she'll have to give us a reason for council to have a vote on whether she can or can't stay in the room and participate in the vote.
But she's going to remove herself from the room.
She's changing her mind by the looks of it. So if she wants to, at the moment, in front of you, she voluntarily proposed to leave the room and not participate in the vote.
Yep.
After some questions, she is now considering whether she will change that declaration of voluntarily removing herself and suggests that potentially she would rather have the council vote on whether she has an interest on the basis that it would be in the public interest for her to participate in the vote.
I understand what you're saying, Mr CEO, but what I want to hear from Councillor Wilcox is, one, that she withdraws her original motion, and two, that she replaces it with another motion in regards to a conflict, suggesting that she's now changed her mind and that there must be grounds that she must provide to the councillors to enable her to stay in the room. Are you comfortable with that, Councillor Wilcox? You're going to have to withdraw the original motion. You're going to have to put a secondary motion stating why you believe you should be able to stay in the room.
I think I'm going to leave. It's getting way too technical. I think I will leave. For me personally, I don't think it'll pass the pub test. I spend way too much time, so I'm happy to leave.
That's fine, councillor Wilcox. Okay. Councillor Wilcox has left the room. Now we will discuss the item, and it should be up on the board. Can I have the recommendation up on the board, please? Okay, and we've got Division 11 there. Okay, councillors, you see the recommendation up on the board. Is there any questions you'd like to raise to Mr Strachan? Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This came from the PNC organisation, did it? This application, or I'm just curious as to a little bit more about, is it an event being run by the PNC or it's a school event, please?
I'll have to defer to Sarah Villiers for an answer in relation to that question.
Hi. It was my understanding that the request was for through a school for the event for Harmony Day.
Thank you.
So did it come directly from?
Councillor Kerensky, through the chair. Any further questions?
Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Councillor Kerensky.
I thought for a moment I was in committee, excuse me.
Sorry, it was through the school directly.
And just to be clear, there's some confusion over whether the schools can actually apply directly to council for funding or whether those funding requests need to come via the PNC. Could you please advise what the policy allows?
Might just need to take that one on notice, sorry, just for now, can't? Okay.
I'm afraid that we have to make a decision on that now,
Okay.
so it would
Yeah,
be
I might just
appreciated.
need to get back to you, just defer.
If we defer, then they won't meet the CBF guidelines for this year. Thank you, Mr Mayor. My apologies for...
Okay. We're just allowing the officer to do a bit of research on this.
So the schools can apply, but there may be some difficulty where that crosses over with LIP funding.
So just in relation to that one, I've been advised by the Manager of Corporate Governance that schools can apply for CBF funding directly. However, they can't apply directly for LIP funding or the old DICIP funding.
Thank you for the clarification.
Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, through the chair, Mr Mayor. Historically, I've always got the PNC or PNF to apply rather than the school directly. So when did that get changed, that the school can directly apply?
We're waiting for a clarification on that last question. Councillor Lane, have you got the answer to that question?
I don't need the answer to that question, Mr Mayor. It's actually up on the internet under Logan City Council's website that schools, PNCs may apply, regardless of when the change was made. It's actually out there on the public domain.
No worries. Thank you, Councillor Lane. The officers would like to make comment on this.
Through the Chair, Councillor Bradley, that was amended on the 4th of December 2019 and it has since been amended on the 19th of February 2020.
Councillor Raven. Any other councillors wish to speak on this or raise any questions? No, that's good. Okay, councillors, you can see the motion up on the screen. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Bannon has moved the motion. Councillor Lane is seconding the motion. I now put the matter to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried unanimously. Therefore, the motion has been carried. Can we ask Councillor Wilcox to come back in the room, please? Okay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I, Councillor Jacob Jeremiah, declare a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item 10.1 of the Ordinary Council meeting on the 23rd of June 2021. The nature of the declarable conflict of interest is that the applicant, Paul Jackson, interviewed me as part of the Parkridge News local news publication. I propose to voluntarily exclude myself from the meeting while this matter is debated and the vote is taken.
Councillor Jeremiah, I heard what you said. I don't really think as well this is probably a great conflict. Do you want to reconsider your options on this? I can't obviously make you stay in the room. It's your call, but it's hardly a conflict having someone interview you. So do you want to reflect on that or not?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, but I will be removing myself from the meeting. Still going to remove myself. Still going to go.
Thank you. Councillor Jeremiah has now left the room. As you can see, we should have it noted up there, proposed amended motion. Yep. Okay, now I open the floor for discussion. Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and at risk of sounding like a broken record, this is the consequences of having declared a conflict previously. So Councillor Jeremiah had no choice but to leave now because he's declared it in a previous meeting. Once he's made that declaration, he's left. He doesn't have the flexibility to stay anymore. We don't have the flexibility to ask him questions. And I don't have the information I need to vote on this. And the only person who can give me that information is Councillor Jeremiah. But because he removed himself, on what I agree with you, being interviewed by someone is not a conflict of interest, unless there's something else that we don't know about the details of that original conflict from last time, because I don't remember it all perfectly. Being interviewed by someone is not a conflict of interest, otherwise half the people in this room would have conflicts with Paul Jackson and would have to remove themselves. Now, Councillor Jeremiah's conflict may be greater than some others for reasons we don't know due to a personal relationship, and that's why he's removed himself, and that's fine. But right now, I want to ask the councillor questions, and the legislation stops me from doing that because he's declared and removed himself arbitrarily, and now I don't know why we'd be giving $5,200 to Parkridge Connect, who also has a relationship with a news outlet. I know Parkridge Connect is a community organisation, I believe, or a church-based organisation, which is great. I'm sure they do amazing community work, but I want to understand that relationship more. And the only person who can help me do that is the person who can't talk to me about it. And that's frustrating, and I won't be able to make a decision today. I'll have to abstain.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. Councillor Bannon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We do know what it's for. It's the reports for Jumping Castle.
Respond.
I don't understand. I need to understand the relationship better between, well, I need to understand what Parkridge Connect do and what the significance of Councillor Jeremiah's conflict is. If I had a conflict of interest with someone and this isn't Councillor Jeremiah's situation, hypothetical situation, if my mate runs a community organisation, I wouldn't even feel comfortable giving $5,200 to that organisation, period, conflict of interest or not. So I want to understand why there's a conflict in the first place in order to understand whether or not it's appropriate for me to support it. Now, other councillors might feel differently, they might be confident, and I'm sure that it'll be used for a good community purpose and lots of kids will benefit. So, and
Councillor
Paul
Owen,
Jackson does great work in the
We'll take that on
community.
board. The CEO would like to discuss something.
We do have some further information that might help to clarify the request.
Please tell me.
And so if I can ask the officer to just give you some of that information, which we have in documentation, so that you might be able to understand that.
So just through the application, the request is for the jumping castle through the Park Ridge Connect. And the reason why is because Park Ridge is the community service arm of the Park Ridge Baptist Church. So in the past 24 months, they've conducted over 30 community events. On Sunday, the 28th of March, they ran their first Logan West Community Picnic. For that event, they rented a jumping castle, the cost for 4 hours being $700. It's proved to be quite popular with children between 5 and 15. So they plan on having a total of 4 picnics per year. Considering the community use, they've requested to purchase that item and have provided the relevant quotes to the amount, including GST.
Just a question to the officer. Do the councillors have that information? Would that be provided in a report if it was normally coming through the committee process?
No, it wouldn't.
No,
It's assessed by Corporate Registers team, and then if meeting the eligibility requirements, will then go to the divisional councillor.
All right. Maybe we should consider that in future. Okay. Any other further questions? Councillor Roden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the information from Ms. Villiers. It's greatly appreciated. That information is very helpful, and I understand the only reason this is coming to an ordinary council meeting instead of a committee meeting is the lateness of the submission. I would just love that, and I know the CBF policy is being reviewed and the procedures are being more streamlined. I would love it that we don't have to go through this in ordinary council in future, that the deadline is actually earlier, so it cuts off in time for us to get to committee so that we can have all that information in the report, we can have a wholesome discussion, I can have time to call Paul and have a chat to him about what he's doing and know all that same information. But thank you very much, it helps me make my decision.
Councillor Bennett.
CBF is Community Benefit Fund. This just benefits the community through a church organisation, so I'm happy to move it when it's ready.
Councillor Bradley. Okay. We have the recommendation up on the screen. Do we have a mover for the motion? Councillor Bannon has moved the motion. Do I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Bradley has seconded the motion. I will now put the matter to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously, therefore the motion has been carried. Thank you. Can we ask Councillor Hiramai back into the room? Just want to state here, as all 3 requests within the report have been considered and voted on, item 10.1 is now concluded. I'll now go to 10.2, the LGMA Awards for Excellence 2021, Logan District Tasking and Coordination Centre Partnership. I now refer to item 10.2. Before we open discussion on this, do any councillors have a conflict of interest to declare? I doubt very much. There being none, I will now present this report. Councillors, it is with great pleasure that I acknowledge recent recognition of Council at the Local Government Managers Australia Awards for Excellence. Logan City Council is regularly recognised at these annual awards, and this year the Community Services Branch finished as winners of the collaboration category for the Logan District Tasking and Coordination Centre Relocation Project. Bit of a mouthful. This is fantastic partnership between Council's local Logan Safety Camera Program and the Queensland Police Service. A recent trial saw the integration of the QPS officers into the Logan Safety Camera Program Monitoring Room, and the Logan District Tasking and Coordination Centre is now permanently operating from Council's monitoring room as a result of the success of the trial. This partnership provides a more efficient way for our monitoring officers and for QPS officers to undertake their duties, and is the first and only partnership of its kind in Queensland. Other regions are now trying to replicate its success using this framework. Congratulations to everyone involved in this award-winning project, including Erin Simpson, the Acting Community Safety Program Leader, Brett Gilmartin, Council's CCTV Operations Officer, and representatives from the Queensland Police Service, including Superintendent Todd Reid and Sergeant Linda Smith, who are in attendance in the gallery today. Thank you for your patience. I would also like to acknowledge the Health, Environment and Waste Branch and the Logan Water Alliance, who were finalists in their sustainability category for the Cedar Grove Environmental Centre project. Surprised I didn't win. I now invite our hard-working officers to the stage for a big round of applause. Yep. Who do I hand that to? The officers? Our officers. Yep. Security. Should have been ready. Okay, one more. Well done. Okay, councillors, there should be a motion up on the board. Is there a mover for the reports motion now displayed on the screen? Councillor Murphy, you'll move the motion. I have a seconder, Councillor Karansky. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried unanimously, therefore the motion's been carried. Thank you. Well, that was good news. Okay. We have a confidential report, the proposed acquisition of land in Springwood. I now refer to item 11.1, which is a late report regarding the proposed acquisition of land in Springwood. Before we open the discussion on this item, do any councillors have a conflict of interest to disclose? No? Good. Thank you. Okay, I will continue. I note that item 11.1 is a confidential report. I note it is considered necessary to take the discussion of the, it is considered necessary to take the discussion of this report into a closed session as the matter is commercial in confidence and relates to contracts proposed to be made by council. However, do any councillors wish to move into closed session for this item, and if applicable, provide an overview of your intended discussions if it's necessary, if it's different to the prepared motion? I remind councillors that if there is no desire to discuss the confidential matter, there is no requirement to move into closed session. So now I open the floor to councillors. Do you wish to go into confidential? No councillors wish to go into confidential. Thank you, councillors. Okay. So do we have a motion up on the board? Thank you, councillor. Okay, councillor, I note that there is a proposed amendment to the confidential reports motion. This amendment has affected clause 5, which is in relation to placing the purchase of the property on the futures budget register. The amendment motion is now displaying on the screen and will take a short pause so that all councillors may read it. Please alert me if you have any questions during this time. It's a fairly fundamental change, but if you want to address a question, Officer Robert Strachan should be present.
Mr Mayor, can I just see from the start right through?
Okay, does there any councillors wish to raise any questions on this? No? Okay, councillors. Do I have a mover for the amended motion up on the screen? Councillor Bannon has moved it. Any seconder for the motion? Councillor Murphy has seconded the motion. I now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried unanimously, therefore the motion has been carried. Thank you. Petitions, do any councillors have any petitions? Not this time, that's the first. Okay, consideration of notified motions. We have no notified motions to consider. General business, I now refer to general business. Do any councillors have an item of general business to raise? Who were we with last time? I'll just pick Councillor Kerensky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, councillors, this week I met on site with residents from Colwell Crescent in Wolfdean, and the State Member Linus Power joined me for this meeting, and the 12 residents present were actually representing all residents who live in the street. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss ongoing safety concerns regarding the entrance and exit from Colwell Crescent onto the Beenleigh-Beaudesert Road. These residents contacted me a couple of years ago about the issue, and since that time they've been working with the State MP regarding changes and upgrades to the Beaudesert-Beenleigh Road to improve the intersection. Both Linus and I anticipated the residents of Colwell Crescent would receive some good news when we learned of $18 million worth of funding going toward upgrades of the Beaudesert-Beenleigh Road. But unfortunately, it appears this intersection has been overlooked. Colwell Crescent is on the inside curve of a bend at the crest of a hill, limiting visibility from either direction when turning in and out of the street. There's considerable amount of vegetation on one side of the intersection and a steep embankment on the other. The speed limit was reduced some time ago along this stretch of road from 80 kilometres an hour to 70 kilometres an hour. However, motorists continue to have a tendency to travel at higher speeds due to this being in a rural part of the city. Increased traffic flow due to development in Bar Scrub has exacerbated the issues for these residents. Whilst on site this week at approximately 3 p.m, I witnessed several cars turning into Colwell Crescent, causing cars behind them to brake suddenly as they came around the bend, not expecting to see a car stopped in front of them. Worse than that, I actually watched vehicles come to a complete halt on the Beenleigh-Beaudesert Road, waiting for vehicles to turn. So I believe the upgrade to this intersection isn't merely to service the residents of Colwell Crescent, but has a greater need for those residents who simply use the Beenleigh-Beaudesert Road. It's an accident waiting to happen. The residents have asked that embankment and vegetation be cut back. They'd also like to see an extension of yellow lines and the addition of shoulders and passing and turning lanes. Mr Mayor, there are approximately 27 houses in the street, and all residents attending on the day advise that they and their family members have had several near misses at the intersection. As stated, I believe the issue extends beyond the residents of Colwell Crescent and is a danger to all motorists using this section of road. Mr Mayor, I'd like to request that on behalf of Colwell Crescent residents,
you write to Mark Bailey, Minister for Transport and Main Roads, and TMR to request this intersection be included in the current upgrades of the Beenleigh-Beaudesert Road. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Not a problem, Councillor Karansky. Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise today to speak to an event that you and I attended just a few weeks ago now, the Investment Roundtable, which was a jointly hosted event between Logan City Council and the Treasurer of Queensland and Investment Minister, the Honourable Cameron Dick, the Minister for Innovation and Sport, the Honourable Sterling Hinchcliffe, and the Assistant Treasurer, Charisse Mullen. Normally events like this would be held in the CBD of a little town that recently just got back curbside cleanup. I think they call it Brisbane still. I'm not sure, and it's outside of Logan. It's so hard to think. We call it north of Logan now, don't we, Councillor Hall? That's right. And it's just a sign of how important Logan's businesses are to the economy of Queensland, that these events are now being drawn out of the CBD and into our future tech precincts and the parts of our city that have huge economic upside. It was great to see so many Logan businesses attending the events, such as Munster Services Group, Beenleigh Steel Fabrications, ATP Science, Australian Unity, Go One, of course, because it was held at their great venue, Black Sky Aerospace, National Drones and Imaging Solutions. And we heard from those businesses about an issue that I know is close to your heart, Mr Mayor, where they were saying that they had the potential and the contracts to do so much more work and employ so many more people, if only they could find staff that had the qualifications and capacity that they needed, and they wanted to find them locally. And I know that's why you initiated the Mayor's Employment Task Force, Mr Mayor, to create that link between businesses who are desperately looking for capable and qualified staff in our city, so that they can lift their business and lift the community with them. And as you know, Mr Mayor, our city has an economic engine that's roaring back to life. We are building back far better than we were pre-COVID, with so many businesses trying to invest in our city, because this council knows how important it is to help businesses establish themselves here, and the ones that are already here thrive and grow so that they can create prosperity for the citizens of our city. And while the global economic environment remains uncertain and Australia and Queensland are recovering well, Logan's doing it better. And Logan will keep doing it better and setting an example for the rest of South East Queensland about what a successful and forward-looking council looks like. Thank you, Mr Mayor, for your hard work in that space, and thank you to my colleagues for all the work that we've done over this budget recently. All of the work that you've put in and the way that you've decided to spend ratepayers' hard-earned money is what makes us so attractive to business and what will make us an amazing city in the future. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I noticed that the Brisbane Council are also trying to get people back in the CBD by increasing their penalty notices for parking fines, so that's just not a good move. Councillor Hall, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. On the 12th of June at Riverdale Park, I met a little girl, a bright little girl, only 20 months old. Her name was Octavia. Earlier this year, she was diagnosed with malignant rhoboid tumour stage 3, and she has been given a 50-50 chance of survival. She has already undergone several bouts of intense chemotherapy, but will be expected to undergo more treatment. I would like to ask the people of Logan to pull together and help one of our brave little battlers. Her family has set up a GoFundMe page. The GoFundMe number is 2046A333, and I beseech people to donate what they can, even if it is little amount. Little amounts come together to make big amounts to help this little Logan girl, to help her family. And please donate whatever you can to little Octavia. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Fraser, Councillor Hieronymi, Councillor Bannon, Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm sure my fellow councillors in the community will recall on the 21st of March this year, a heavy rainfall event occurred, destroying part of the road surface of Boxer Avenue at Shayla Park. It looked like something out of a movie scene, and footage of the road made its way right across the globe. Today, I'm pleased to advise that the repair of Boxer Avenue has now been completed. I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to the residents who live on Boxer Avenue and surrounding streets for their patience and understanding over the last few months. I would also like to thank council officers from the Road and Water Infrastructure stream, led by Mr Darryl Riley, who worked tirelessly and quickly as possible to rebuild the road, and in particular, Acting Program Leader Mitch Bickle, who kept me and the affected residents regularly updated on the progress of the project. Finally, I would like to thank the Queensland Reconstruction Authority, who work proactively with Council to identify eligible works through the Commonwealth state-funded disaster recovery funding arrangements, assisting with the funding of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stent. That is excellent news. I know that made the news, but I guess I won't be showing the new road, so we'll just have to celebrate between ourselves. Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you. This week we adopted the 2021-2022 budget, and again I would like to thank my fellow councillors and all of the staff involved in the budget process. It's been a very long journey to be able to deliver the budget this week, so a huge thank you to all of you, and most importantly to Councillor Murphy for being a fantastic Deputy Chair. We've had some very robust and informative discussions over the past 2 months, and decisions were not made lightly by councillors, but these decisions were made for the residents of Logan. This budget really is for our community and for our lifestyles. Mayor Power said it well before, and he said that as a council we're looking to the future with this budget, with Logan delivering its very first $1 billion budget, which I'm so very proud to say. And with this budget we are allocating funding across a range of projects across the city of Logan. This budget delivers something for everyone across the city, whether it be parks, roads, infrastructure. One thing I'm very proud of being able to deliver was actually asking the Director, Katie Barton-Harvey, to bring back a report to extend the opening hours of the libraries. And I actually did a live feed on Facebook last night at my local Greenbank Library. And I walked into it, I was actually on the phone to the Deputy Mayor just before I walked in going, when are the hours getting up? When are the hours, starting? And there was a sign at the front and they start on the 1st of July. So I'm so very proud to say that our library hours are opening and extending, which is fantastic. We want our residents to enjoy and love living, working and doing business in Logan. And as a resident, I'm very proud to say that I live and work in Logan. And I'm very proud to have delivered my very first budget for the City of Logan. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox, and we'll be able to gloat to our grandkids in years to come that we were the first to present a $1 billion budget to Logan City. Councillor Murphy. Councillor Bradley.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. And may I ask in future when there's an amendment to a recommendation that the Divisional Councillor be informed before it actually is presented, because it's changed the whole landscape of that particular recommendation, in my opinion. Recently, the state government had their budget announcement, and it's very welcoming to see the Pacific Motorway upgrades, including Daisy Hill to Logan motorway planning stages and 8 Mile Plains to Daisy Hill, including Sports Drive to Gateway Pacific Highway early works, Watland Street to Sports Drive, and designing of Rochdale Bus Station and Park and Ride. This obviously impacts a lot of people that I represent. We really need to know what is actually happening in Springwood particularly. Future planning for our city is at the moment pie in the sky and a stab in the dark. Present situation is that I'm finding out as the Divisional Council at the same time as the community is what is actually happening. Previously, TMR gave us confidential briefings on what is planned. And like I said, our planning for our, particularly Springwood, is just pie in the sky because we don't know. So there really needs to be an element of transparency about what is happening, particularly for Springwood. And I believe, Mr Mayor, you are going to write to the Minister because there was a council resolution last year asking TMR to come and give a confidential briefing, and as yet it hasn't happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bradley. I would appreciate in future to be forewarned about these issues so that I can obviously look into them before you speak about it. Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. I can't let that one go. When you say pie in the sky, you actually mean that you don't know what the state government is doing, Councillor Bradley. It's not that council doesn't have a plan for Springwood, because I believe that you've articulated it in just about every meeting that we've attended. You've nagged us, you've berated us, and you've actually said, this is our plan for Springwood. So to say there is a pie in the sky...
Councillor Lane, we'll just hear the point of order first and then...
Great.
I
Councillor
do
Bradley,
find
you
that
wish to...
very offensive, that Councillor Lane is referring to me in such a way.
I don't think she referred you in any way, Councillor Bradley. I think she was just making a statement. She didn't actually... She didn't actually... Councillor Bradley, I have the chair. Councillor Bradley, I have the chair. I don't believe that Councillor Lane made any statement about you at all. I know she was debating what you said, but I don't believe she made any statement of relevance towards you personally. Councillor Lane.
More than welcome to, Mr Mayor. The plans for Springwood have been pushed forward. We've heard about it in every meeting that we've attended. And had you let me finish, Councillor Bradley, you would have actually heard me say that as far as advocacy goes, you're a good advocate for your division. But that being said, the state government have their own set of plans, and I understand frustration when you don't know what those plans are. But asking the Mayor to write to them is one thing, but saying it is pie in the sky and that we don't know what's happening with Springwood was just incorrect. Now, moving on to my general business, Mr Mayor, Kingston South Neighbourhood Watch LC10 held their meeting last Saturday, and LC10's been running for 25 years, and they do a remarkable job, but they're actually lacking in volunteers. So in that part of Kingston, we seem to have come across a bit of a stall when it comes to volunteers in that community. And I call on anyone who lives in the area from Queen's Road down to Scrubby Creek with Kingston Road as the border to actually come in and start participating in your neighbourhood safety program. It's a great program. Eric and June offer a cuppa every bi-monthly, second Saturday of the month at 3 p.m. So please go along. The second point that I'd like to raise today in general business, Mr Mayor, is the DA team actually won a State Landscape Architecture Award for the Logan Central Civic and Community Plan. And I was going to do it in congratulations, but I actually thought bringing it up in general business was a better opportunity. Dave Radich, Ella and the team have pushed forward with a plan. I've had reservations about it. I've raised those reservations. But they actually pushed forward a plan that has aspirations and hopes for the people of Division 2. And I just wanted to express my thanks to them in general business. And moving forward, I really hope that the community consultation continues from the DA branch when it comes to this master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. This is GB. We take our chances in order. That's why we change the order each time we have general business. So we have now finished general business. I will now go into the Mayor's general business. There being no further discussion from councillors, I have one item to present regarding the Queensland Audit Office interim report to the Mayor. As per section 213 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, this report, as an observation report from the Auditor General, is required to be presented to the next ordinary council meeting after it has been received. I propose to refer this observation report to the Audit and Risk Committee for consideration, with a further report to a future City Governance Committee. So you will get to address it. Councillors, I ask that you direct any queries on the report to Councillor Murphy so she may raise them at the Audit and Risk Committee. Accordingly, I now move the following motion. 1, that in accordance with section 2132 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the 2021 Queensland Audit Office QAO interim report to the Mayor dated 28th of May 2021 be tabled, and that the Corporate Governance Manager be requested to prepare a report to a future Audit and Risk Committee meeting to review and action the 2021 Queensland Audit Office interim report to the Mayor as detailed in clause 1 above. And 3, that the Corporate Governance Manager be requested to prepare a report to a future City Governance Committee meeting presenting the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee as detailed in clause 2 above for consideration. I have moved it. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Wilcox has seconded the motion. I now put the matter to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried unanimously, therefore the motion has been carried. Councillors, that concludes our agenda for today. I now declare the meeting of the ordinary council meeting closed at 11:24 a.m. Thank you very much.